And what I like to do is read just the first part of it.
Okay.
Okay. The email says, I am reaching out to bring your attention to the extraordinary efforts of a remarkable woman who has been profoundly impacting the lives of Black girls and women for the past 3 decades and continues to do so with unwavering dedication. Her name is Rolanda Wilkins, affectionately known as Mama Ro.
Yeah.
That's pretty special.
To do is that I really wanted to work with girls before they became pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
At some point you're like kind of catching people jumping off of a cliff. And then at some point you have to say, well, why are they jumping off the cliff? The main program I do is We Girls and the Dream Academy. And that's where I work with girls in middle school and high school. I'm a class period. It's an empowerment hour, basically. 90% of my students are African American. And then sometimes I have sprinkles of other people in there. But mainly, and I also do this in juvenile hall as well. And I also do this in what's called community schools. By law, you have to be in school. So they have these community schools that's run by the Sacramento County Office of Education. So I get to work with those girls as well. And then I also built in home
Wait a
visits.
minute, so what exactly do you do with these girls?
I do empowerment.
What
I
does that mean?
Yeah, empowerment means like you're in school, you're young. I teach them about who they are. That's why I work with a lot of African American girls. I want them to know the rich history. I want them to know, no, you didn't just show up here right now. You are a part of a whole continuum. But
Right.
most young people don't know their history. These massive sessions um, with girls from all over Sacramento. And that also they've got to see each other, you know, uh, which helped them have less turmoil, helped them to have a plan for their life. I did a lot of dreaming. We do that also with pregnant women, but I also did a lot of dreaming because sometimes they say that young people don't dream anymore. Like dream, like where they see themselves in 10 years, 20 years, you'll get married, you're gonna have kids. Like, what are you gonna do? You want to travel the world? You want to go to college? You want to own a business? Like, what do you want to do? But really giving them room to dream and to see each other and to
Mm-hmm.
support each other.
How are they learning? Is it lectures by you or someone else?
It's, yeah, it's part of it is they do have books that they can read. There's also a lot of talking and seeing what's in their head so we can walk them through like where you get that. Like I do this whole thing where we look at their base. Who are your parents? Why did they come together to make you? Who's your grandmama? Where they from? Like we do all of that kind of stuff. What's your goal? Why are you at school? Some of the girls I work with, they get in a lot of trouble, and I talk to them about, wow, you're very powerful. You want to use that in a different kind of way. So my thing is, and my one rule is, I never speak down on a parent. So I always tell young people, like, you're kind of like in a counseling session, if you will. Maybe your mama didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe nobody ever took time with her. So for me, I'm always creating things that's going to back up their experience. So even though I have this girl empowerment program and they come together and they learn about themselves and their people and where they're from, they get to learn the history. We talk about different periods in history. The one period I think I talk about the most because it comes up the most is the crack era.
Oh.
That era was so impactful. Like even in certain communities, I was like, do you know this community was thriving?
Mm.
Because it's very rare in California to find a native. Very rare. But it's like, why did they leave? So we do this whole thing around the history tree, and you get to go back as far as you can, and we pull out all kind of stuff. And then, I say, go ask your grandmother, ask her why she came out here. Ask her where she came from. So you hear a lot of Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma. You may hear like Alabama, Georgia, but everybody came out here looking for a better life. And you are a part of that. That's why they made the sacrifices. But then I also talked about, because when we talk about that crack era, I have to explain to young people, like, because weed is really big right now. So I said, why y'all smoke weed? That's flat up. Like, why? What's the, oh, it's a lot of stress out here. It's a lot of. And I said, well, how you think your grandmama and them felt? What you think that was their choice of the day? Why do you think crack was so prevalent? Nobody had ever seen a drug like crack before.
Mm.
Just never been. People could be a heroin addict and still go to work. That did not happen with crack. So I explained like when that person was on crack, what that did to your family and your community.
Mm.
So I do these pre-surveys and post-surveys, and I'm really gathering information. Like, do you have anybody in your family that's been to prison? I'm asking everything. You have somebody with high blood pressure, like the whole nine. My thing is, with if somebody's on drugs or somebody's in prison, that impacts their ability to take care of their family.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you live with your grandmother. That's why you live with your auntie. That's why you're in foster care. There was a whole system in place, but our kids don't know that, and I want them to understand it from where they are. Because
Are
sometimes we'll
you
talk. I'm sorry.
are you saying that to convey the message that this was something deliberately done to the Black community?
And I'm saying until Black people tell us what happened, why were we on crack like this? Yeah, they could have flooded the community, but what was happening in us that it was an option? So I wish the answer could be this way or that way. It's probably a little bit of both. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like making a perfect cake. You just can't make cake with just eggs. You got to have all the other ingredients. And I'm saying, yeah, they could have flooded it in our community, but what was going on with us? I've had the opportunity to interview people who are now in recovery, and some of them were in Black power movements, and then they got on drugs. And I asked myself, what was going on that you were empowered and you still use drugs? And then they were saying stuff like rejection, I was abused. Like I couldn't get rid of these feelings that I was having. And I needed some relief.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's the
Mm-hmm.
answer. Even
Mm-hmm.
though people could put things there in front of you, what's going on with you that becomes an option? And I feel like if we don't teach young people how to think their way through, to let them know they have options. The options may not be the option you want. It may be yes or no, but you got an option. How do you fight through those feelings?
Now you have young girls who are kind of saying the same thing to you. I have needs, I have stress, I have things that are not being addressed.
Mhm.
So how do they learn there are other options besides drugs?
Because for me, I always teach it to them. See, the other thing is, I always talk to young people like, loneliness will have you doing some things because you want to be in a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing is, I'm trying to give them the tools that somebody gave me. I grew up in the cracker, and my dad was a drug addict. My mother died at 52 because she had three jobs and
Mm-hmm.
never asked her family for no help out here in California.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at their life, but it didn't make me want to be a drug addict. It didn't make me smoke weed. It's kind of like, there's some other things. And I'm not gonna lie, I really gravitated to my history, my culture, like learning about that. I love music. Black folks, we've created so many. When I talk to Black, they when I ask girls what they like about the class, they say, you be having me hyped up on being Black, Ms. Rowe. Like I didn't know Black was. I said, y'all, we built this whole country.
Mm.
And we created every form of music you could think of. There was something very magical about you. I always give them the story about, how we came here from Africa, and along the way, people were dying, whether it was in the dungeons, whether it was in the ship, whether it was being branded. But yours and my ancestors did not die because there is something in us that is so powerful. That's why we create, even when we're oppressed, we're still creating. There's something very magical about you. But now you got to back up and take care of yourself because we're getting ready to change this.
And
Out of
so,
slavery, we had 60 Black towns straight up out of slavery.
how long does this program last?
It's
Is
a
there a
it's a school
start?
year. It's a school year
It's
because
a
I'm doing
school
a lot
year.
of it's a school year, and then on the summertime, that's when I do the quality of life road trip. When I went to Cuba when I was 27 for the first time. I've been to Cuba like about 12 times, but that's the first time I went. And when I went to Cuba, I met some Israeli kids, and they were backpacking across the world. Like they had made a pact in high school that in their junior year in college, they were going to take the year off and just go see the world. And I was like, wow, y'all must be very rich. And they was like, no, we just save money. And they were staying like in the little hostels or whatever. So I had that same idea, but so I said, what I'm gonna do, I took six girls the first year and kind of, you know, worked for some of the money, like doing lectures. And then, some people donated, a lot of people donated. And then we got in the van and we drove throughout the whole US and Canada for 30 days.
Oh
And
my goodness, wait a minute.
Yeah, I was
Was
the main
it, you
driver.
were there was one van,
One man,
one driver,
me,
one adult.
me, and six young girls.
How old?
I think the oldest at the time was 18 and the youngest was 14.
Oh my goodness.
And, of
For
course,
30 days?
30 days. 30 days. My daddy was a cross-country truck driver. I think it's in the blood for me. But yeah, we went everywhere. We went into Canada. We see where Harriet Tubman went to
That's
church at.
amazing.
We did it. I mean, oh my God, we toured DC, like the state capitol. Like we went everywhere. South Carolina, went to the Sea Islands. We met with the Gullah Geechee people, which my kids knew nothing of. That's my dad's side of the family. We drove through Texas, and Black folks took care of us. When they
Me.
found out we were coming, like we met with communities of Black folks, like wherever we went, young people, old people, touring the Capitol, touring colleges, learning about business. We even went to, so when we get to the South in South Carolina, North Carolina, we went to this Stagville plantation and learned a lot. Like I've never even been on a plantation like that. But then if you go like something like 30 miles to the south, I believe, there's this place called the Coleman Hawkins Institute. And this was a Black woman right out of, she went to school up north and then she came back down and opened up a school. And that school was open for like 55 years. One of my favorite teachers in high school, his mother went to that college.
Mm-hmm.
It started by a Black woman. And she started with one little schoolhouse. And then,
Mm-hmm.
then integration came. And
Mm,
then, Black folks had other options.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So now it's just a park, like it's a federally protected park, and you can tour a house and learn about. I mean, this woman was amazing,
So you
but
would let these communities know we're on our way.
we coming. This is the day we gonna be there because I'm driving. Chicago. And my kids loved it. Most of the girls who've gone on the road trip, probably like a good like 75% of them, end up going away to college. They was like, I want to go down. They love the South for some reason. They love the South. The North, we stopped in Philly because my dad, when he was alive, we'd go to his house, he would cook and do this massive spread. But
Oh,
what they loved about the North is that they loved seeing all the people outside. They was like, oh my, we was in Philly because we was in West Philly, and then we would go visit family in North Philly, and they were just like, where all these people come from? Because where we live at, there's not a lot of Black people.
okay.
We're here, but we
Oh,
don't have whole communities.
oh,
Well, you
okay.
can see a whole everybody playing basketball outside. They go
Everyone,
to the
yes.
mall, they go to, you know what I mean? So they really love Philly and they got to learn a lot about the history. Because out here you have the East Coast and the South have roots. You don't have a lot of roots out west.
Interesting.
So they got to see like my grandmother's from here, because they would talk about it, but not necessarily explain to them why they ended up in Sacramento. The first road trip, we stayed at a lot of people's houses, like my friends and people I've known from my work. And then I was able to really get some money. And then the next year we stayed like in hotels. And then sometimes we would still stay to the person's house. Like one of my friend's grandmother had this beautiful brownstone in Brooklyn. We stayed on the third floor. The kids loved it. They was like, oh, I said, this is a brownstone. We're in Brooklyn, y'all. Like, and they really like it was just incredible. So for me, it's like when I asked young ladies about how they felt about the road trip, they said it really changed their whole lives and where they wanted to go. This is for 30 days. So usually I leave half of June, half of July.
Wow.
You know what I mean? 30
That's
days. And it
commendable.
changes their lives. Like we met with 1 year in Philadelphia. We was able to, I was bugging somebody so much that one day I got a phone call and it was Miss Sonia Sanchez. And I
Yes.
was like, hello? Oh my God, because I
Yes.
have been like bugging this person and bugging this
Yes.
person and bugging this person. And I said, well, I'm coming through Philadelphia on the quality of life road trip. And she said, come on to the house. So we went to her house in Germantown. She fed us. And then one of my girls is an award-winning poet in town. She was so stunned because she's the only person who really understood who she was. So she
Oh, right,
was able to
right.
get some poetry and she was like, I just can't
Wow.
believe. Then she invited us because our next stop was going to be after Baltimore, DC. They were honoring her in DC and we got to go to see her be honored. And that's when the other girls figured out like, this person is famous. We was just in her house. So we had stuff like that happen to us on the road trip because people want to, the other things I think folks want to touch, like in terms of being in the presence of. Because when we was in Chicago, and this was the weekend we was in Chicago, and something like 20 people was shot in Chicago. Like we was there that weekend, so people
Mm.
was worried, but we were taken care of. A lot of we met with a lot of young people, and it was like, who comes up with an idea to take y'all across the country? Because we can't even get out of our section of the city.
Yeah, that's huge to give them something different to see, to get out of their neighborhood.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
went hiking in the Red Mountains in Nevada with an elder that's from New York, but she lives in Vegas. And that lady was so fit. I had to take several breaks. We was hiking, but she took us in the Red Mountains, and then we drank from a spring. The water was so good. Like, oh, but it was like all of this. I mean, so it's like definitely being exposed to the city, the country, the mountains. We've been on Pueblos, we've been on we even went and visited with some white people who lived in Appalachia in West Virginia. That was very interesting. You know why? Because we got to show, I feel like we have to show Black folks that all white people are not the same. These were these were the Hatfields and McCoys were from. I didn't even know they was real people. I thought that was something they made up on the Flintstones. So we were right there where West Virginia is and just seeing all their property because somehow we act
Mm.
like all white people are rich and speak proper. And I said, girl, like, this is just, and they would that really shocked them because they had never seen that before.
That's
They had
huge.
never seen white people like that before. And I was like, yeah, this is called Appalachia. This is where we
Yeah,
are.
that's pretty amazing. So, what's the largest number of girls you've traveled with?
11.
Whoa. And this happens every year?
Every year. So this year I'm still working on it because I'm raising funds. I'm like, oh, see what happened 2 years, Javon was able to acquire some funding, but the kicker was that we had to include some Chinese Americans into the road trip. So I spent like the whole year researching all kind of history on Chinese people. I learned a lot though, and so they fully funded it, like full like it was a budget I could never even. I got paid to do the road trip, so that was really different. But
Hmm.
I probably will never do that again because I know we like to throw this term around of color, which I don't like because I think it erases who people are.
Hmm.
Chinese people's story is nothing like our story.
Hmm.
Nothing. That's not how they came here. I learned the history about how most of 70% of Chinese Americans come from one particular part of China. And they were brought here by their own people to work.
Hmm.
They also had like a lot of power because they owned a lot of things. Like, so every time we on the road trip, I was like doing my thing with the girls, but they felt some way because they felt some of the girls did because they wanted their story to mirror our story. It's like, girl, we didn't come here with all our stuff intact.
Well,
We had some, it was just really interesting. I just felt like, but I also felt like the difference in the two groups was like, for instance, because we were in a big tour bus, I've never been on a big tour bus like this, we had to take Ubers everywhere we stopped. So we get ready to go somewhere. I can't remember where we were. And the first Uber came was a van. And I said, let's go. All the Black girls came running out. And Javon said, Londa, like the Asian girls, they're still sitting down in there. I said,
mm,
that's the difference. All of those girls have been to China before.
mm,
Our girls didn't even, they were learning about the history of who they were because most of them had never been exposed to that before, let alone talking about Africa. You know what I'm saying? Like they were just, and so I said, but also the Black girls knew there was an urgency because if we don't get up, our needs don't get met. No one's going to ensure that we'll get what we need.
mm,
Yeah, like I love my work, but I just feel like sometimes we have to do a better job in investing
mm-hmm,
and not on the back end.
mm-hmm,
But in the because these girls, like some of them now are married, they have children. I've been doing this trip for like it's like the 12th year. Like some of them
mm-hmm.
are like went to college, they got degrees. One young lady done been on 6 other continents. Like she's like really serious about her travel, got a master's and everything else. But I feel like the investment piece, like we have to invest in us more. And I'm gonna tell you, the road trip is a lot of work, a lot of mental work because what we're doing is that we're addressing some of the reasons why we are where we are. It's like
Absolutely.
coming face to face with your past. Like
Mm,
when we go to that Stagville plantation, one time we went, I'll never forget this. And one of the women that was with me, we were all doing like a prayer or something, and all the girls just busted out crying.
mm,
Like falling crying. And then the guys, we had like there's a few road trips that men went with, boys went with us, but they was with their team. So we would like do
Mhm.
stuff together. They came running because they thought something was wrong. And they was just like, they said that they had hit them like people lived in this. We would hit it was like the whole history. And they just, so when we came out around the little fireplace, they were talking about, because I said, let me just ask y'all like this. If your ancestor that came this way, because all of us had one somewhere along the line, maybe in a place like this, would they be proud of where you are right now? Would their journey have been worth it?
Mm.
They was like, I could be doing better. I could be, sometimes I'll be doing some stupid stuff, but that's why you have to have a history in the past so you know why you're moving forward, why you need to move forward. And
Mhm.
I like to think this is just me. When I look at all the work that I've done, I like to think my grandmother, my mom's mother, is very proud of me. She was a deaf and mute woman. She went to
Mm.
the school for the deaf in Germantown. I
Mhm.
like to think her mother, Georgia Ann, who came up from Virginia, I like to think she was very proud of me. I like to think my great great grandmother, Winnie Parks, who was an enslaved African in Fairfax County, Virginia, that she was like all, and she lived to be 103, that all of her sacrificing, all of her ironing, all of her cleaning people's toilets was worth it. I like to feel like that's they're like that's what you're supposed to do on the planet. And I thank God I didn't get caught up. Like I didn't have any birth children. I have a lot of godchildren and people who think they my kid for real, but I'm just so grateful that their prayers and their sacrifice. I do something called grandma hands. And it's a community tribute where we basically fix them a really good brunch. And then we also get these proclamations from a U.S. Senator, a U.S. Assemblyman, from our mayor, and then it's an award and it's a plaque. And what we do is that we honor community grandmothers who are there holding the way for us. And we honor them and they get to be sitting in a beautiful chair and get
Mm.
flowers and people get up and say how much they love them. So it's like giving them their flowers before they leave so they can smell
That's
them.
nice. That's
And they
nice.
love it. And so what I learned from grandma hands, we do that every year. I think we're in our 11th year. And the young girls MC where they read their bios and it's really incredible. It's a booklet that they get and everything. And now it's a book because I put them all in a book. And what's really beautiful about Grandma Hands is that there was a woman who was nominated and got it. She didn't have any children, any birth children, but all the people that stood up. She was my teacher in second grade. I had her in eighth grade. She helped me do this and that. And it was like, wow, like she was an elder. So for me, Grandma Hands is really like an energy. It's a real energy because everyone was saying the same thing. Thank you for taking care of me. Thank you for looking out for me. Thank you for loving on me. Thank you for seeing past me when I was being ridiculous. It's kind of like the song Grandma Hands. Here's a person who was just right there with me, holding my hand, loving on me when I couldn't even love myself. So that's Grandma Hands. We do that every year. It's usually not a dry
Nice.
eye in the house. Everybody, their mama come out for their grandma. Then we do
Nice.
something called the Men of Honor. So as we were doing Grandma Hands, a young brother said to me, we need to honor the men in our community. So when people talk like this to me, like, well, they don't honor us, I said, it ain't their job. That's your job. Like, what you want to do? And he was like, why I even say this to you? So then we developed Men of Honor. And so that's like 11 years. We honor Black men in our community who do extraordinary work, like who are there. It could be anybody from a head of a foundation to
Mhm.
someone who yard duty. And
Mhm.
they get the same treatment, like they get to those proclamations, because I believe in the proclamations so that it can go in the book. So if somebody digs something up 100 years from now, they're gonna know we was honoring people. They're gonna be on the ledger. The Men of Honor has been up now for 11 years. We did it for about 3 years in Philadelphia before my dad passed. So I
Mm.
went to work with your assemblyman, I can't remember his name, but he would give us proclamations for those men, and we did it in that Carousel House
Mhm.
in Fairmount Park. And
Mhm.
so, it was really nice. And again, it's like I think we have to celebrate the men who are doing something. Like we have to
Absolutely.
recognize them. Like, thank you. Because I believe in telling people thank you, but I also believe you have to create this environment where young people get to see us doing it.
Okay.
That's why we do those men honors. And then we do something called the Harriet Tubman Youth Leadership Award every Black History Month. We honor Black kids from different high schools who have good grades, but also help others. because Harriet Tubman could have just secured her own freedom and went on about her business. But she didn't. I mean, she definitely helped people get the freedom. But I learned in Canada she had a boarding house. So for me, even though we called the Harriet Tubman Leadership Award, it's kind of like I want you to see her because I see that part of her in you. You just don't
Mm,
help people. I mean, you could just help people, but it's kind of like that usually has to come from somewhere. It's a passion. Why do you look out for other people? Because I know people looked out for me and continue to look out for me. That's
mm,
how we climb. So you pull as you climb. If I had
mm,
just secured myself, it wouldn't even mean nothing. But it mean a lot when you can take people with you.
absolutely.
Besides that, I do a lot of home visits because I
Mm,
have to go look people in their face and be like, let me tell you what's going on with your kid. But I can help you. Let me assist you. What kind of support you need, sis? How can we help? Because I know you want the best for your kid. And I do it without judgment. Like I don't be, so for me, it's like I know that something has shifted in our community. And sometimes we do this thing in our community where we fake it till we make it, but people can tell that something's wrong. Because
mm-hmm,
now you can start to see the cracks very clearly.
mm-hmm,
When there's a back to school night, it's hard. Some Black parents will come, but for the most part, it'd be a lot of Hispanics, a lot of like Southeast Asians, a lot. And then Black people, you can count them on like maybe two fingers. It's kind of like this is like, what's going on with us?
mm,
I personally said, this is what I tell parents. I said, the best way to prove to people that you are very concerned about your child's education, volunteer 1 hour a month. Just 1 hour. I don't care if it's yard duty. I don't care if you get to sit in the back of the class. Be at that school. Treatment looks very different when you're at the school. Even if there's some things that's wrong with the school, by you being my mother, because I went to Lydia Darrow right there in North Philadelphia. My mom worked, but she always made it up to Lydia Darrow because we lived like down the street.
mm-hmm.
My teacher that I had in third grade, Miss Ballard, I'll never forget her name. She taught my mom. She had
Wow.
a waiting list to be in her class.
Wow.
Miss Ballard, I will never forget her name. And you didn't act a fool in her class. It's not possible. It's just not possible. But you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like that investment, and even if there are things wrong with your school system, you could be a part of either changing that or providing an alternative. But I would tell people I'm descended from people who are due for self. I'm
Absolutely.
from those people. I can't,
Absolutely.
my destiny is in nobody's hands but my own. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
The creator will find a way to make it happen. But I first got to be
Absolutely.
present in this thing. Like, come on.
So
Like, there's something about when we hold each other accountable in a loving way, it works. That's how we survive this place called America.
yeah, there.
I'm gonna give you a quick story real quick. I had a teacher in the third grade. The woman was a racist. She was a straight racist, Ms. Wagner. Yes, I'm gonna say her name. She probably dead and gone. My protest was I was not gonna do no work. I didn't know the woman had sent a letter home to my mom about how I was not doing my work in class. I had no clue. I just know that when I got home one day, my mother asked me out the blue, "Hey, Reds, that's my nickname. How was school today?" I was like, "Oh, school is great." It didn't even dawn on me that she's asked me about something, like just out the blue. I said, "Yeah, I'm good in school, Mom. Everything's great." She said, "Oh, really?" She said, "So this letter I got in the mail about you not doing your work, that's okay?" She said, "We're gonna go on up to the school." And she said, "Because if we get up to the school and you're not doing your work, I'm gonna beat you right there. You're gonna get it." She said, "Let's go." I said, "Mama, hold on, hold on." So I started telling her about T. She said, "Look, I don't care if this woman is Hitler. You come and tell me and let me handle her. But you not doing your work is not an option." In that moment, that's when I learned you can't be blaming stuff on something like that. You got to figure out a way to deal with it. She said, "I will deal with it," but you didn't even tell me that. You just came up with your own protest. Didn't make no sense at all. I could see if you talked to me, I could have switched classes. I could have, checked the woman, but you don't do anything. So
Mhm.
for me, when I think of people talking about white supremacy, and Lord knows I know history. I've traveled to places just to get the history. I know that is not an option for me because I don't want my people in my line thinking that's how we handle things. I think about our ancestors, 60 Black towns out of slavery,
Mm,
even though most of them got burnt down in the red summer of
mhm,
1919. But they still got up and did something. And then we kept doing it. We kept doing it. We kept getting back up. Well, you have to keep getting back up because you have people coming behind you
mhm,
who's going to need a guide, a roadmap. Some
Mm-hmm.
of us is out here in the wilderness and we didn't get no roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, do I teach about racism? Absolutely. But I also teach about the resiliency
Mm-hmm.
that we was like, we're gonna have to figure out how to step over this, move around it. When I'm working with Black kids and they in trouble, I'll be like, baby girl, you are so beautiful. You so pretty. What you doing in here? Talk to me. How often do people talk to us like that? Because usually they're meeting us with this. I'm like, baby, I ain't here to argue with you.
Yeah.
I know you got dreams. I know you got what's going on. How can we help you be all right?
She has done all of this while battling health issues.
Well, I had some health problems, along the way. Even though your doctor said you're healthy as a horse, I must not have been that healthy because my kidneys was not doing well. Then I started getting really bloated, and then I was getting ready to do a conference. I do this conference every year called Empower Her Conference. And the day of, I just got extremely sick and had to be hospitalized and had to do emergency dialysis. So, though I was over here fighting the diabetes fight, the kidneys was over here struggling. So I'm doing much better now. All my tests are looking good, and they got me on this list for a kidney transplant. But I'm also looking at some alternative things to improve on my own, because there hasn't been a lot of research in the kidney field in years, is what I learned. Because it's big business to be at the dialysis place, the dialysis center. So I'm doing the part I can do now. I always feel like when you do a lot of work, um, sometimes you don't always take care of yourself. And I can see that in myself now. Because my
Mm-hmm.
mother died when she was 52. I'm 52 right now. Her mother died when she was 52. I've been to every dialysis center throughout the United States. The nicest dialysis center I went to was in DC. They had a whole wall, it was a whole fish tank. I was like, this is incredible. And the craziest dialysis place I went
We're
to
not safe.
was
How can we assist you? What do you what do you need moving forward?
for me, this is maybe like a twofold. Part of it is always looking for fundraising for this road trip. Like I'm smack dab in the middle of it. I'm like, oh Lord, I gotta get this road trip together. This is not even the road trip, it's the financing part of it. Like that's what I have to always raise money for the fund. Then also I'm always looking to collaborate with people across the country because I feel like there's strength there.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? There's strength,
Absolutely.
and I think Black women, Black people are great, period. But I've been around some amazing Black women, like that, just the way that they figure out those little odds and I'm always looking for ways to collaborate with people. And I think some of the things we do, whether it's honoring young people or elders and men, I would like to see that in other parts. I think if we just celebrate each other, like, because I think our kids have to see us celebrating without the drama because all of us have amazing stories. Every time I read those stories of Black men, grandma hands, the things that I'm like, we are amazing people. But if our babies don't know it, they're gonna think we just got here.
Right. And so hopefully this podcast will help to connect you with people who are just intrigued by what you're doing or telling you about what they have to
I would love
offer
that.
so that the young girls can be exposed to even more. Let's
Yeah.
say someone wants to get in touch with you, or they have a question, or they want to make a donation, or they have a wonderful place that you could visit
Oh, I would love it.
in your travels. How do they reach you?
Okay, so my email they can reach me at. I'm gonna give you my short email because I have one that's super long, and I'll be like, okay. So it's emhnetwork@gmail.com. So that stands for Earth Mama Healing and then network@gmail.com. Then they could also give us a call at 916-706-2838. That's our offices.
I am very glad that she sent the email
Okay.
because your story and the work you've done is worth being noted. So thank you for the work you do.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Take care now.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.